What's going on, everybody? So today I want to go over if Hysilens will revive the dot meta in Honkai Sorrow. Now let's talk about it, right? Hysilens is going to be a great, enabler for any kind of dot team, right? Especially for running Kafka, Black Swan, like the typical, dot units that you would actually run. Guinaifen, Sampo, they could be affected as well. Essentially, any kind of dot unit is going to be heavily appreciated by having Hysilens on the team, but is she single-handedly going to be reviving Dot? Now, as it stands right now, Hysilens alone is not enough to revive Dot. She's not gonna be the Robin of Dot. She will be great for Dot, probably a necessity for a Dot team in this day and age, but she's not gonna be a second coming, right? This isn't like the reinvention of the wheel, right? It's not gonna be anything crazy, and if Hoyoverse doesn't continue to show love for Dot in the upcoming patches, it's just gonna go back to how it was before. So let me talk about all of it, right? The pros to the new stuff being added to the Dot meta, right? Kafka getting buffed is absolutely huge for the Dot meta. Buffed Kafka and also Hysilens, along with, of course, Black Swan, can really get you pretty far in the end game, which is another thing. The environment of the end game plays such a big role in what gets, shield and what doesn't. People will chalk everything, literally everything, up to HP inflation and power creep, but it is so much more than that, right? There is power creep in the game, but like I said, there's a lot of other factors as well, such as the enemies that are on the field, the buffs, the blessings, right? In this case, MLC, right? Because MLC, you don't really get to choose your buffs. There's like slight buffs that can make a little difference. The enemies themselves actually do make a huge difference. And of course, things like the toughness bars of the enemies, which is why Firefly is falling off, right? It's not because she's being power crept, although she is being power crept just a little bit. People exaggerate it, right? But my point is, the meta, right, the end game right now is definitely showing some interest towards Dot. There's a lot of buffs for Pure Fiction and Apocalyptic Shadow right now that are catered towards Dot, right? I think honestly they want more sales on Hysilens than Ceridra at this point, looking at Ceridra's kit, but I've made a video going over Ceridra's kit already and if she will be meta. But we're talking Hysilens now, right? Hysilens for a dot, for a dot team comp, she will be meta, right? But if you don't have a single dot unit, or you just don't want to attempt to, use a dot team anymore, then Hysilens will just simply not be it, right? And honestly, even if you have Kafka and Black Swan, I would be on edge about Hysilens, because yet again, if Hoyoverse doesn't continue adding more units for Dot, more ways to support the Dot meta, it's just gonna go back to how it was before, right? Because of power creep, HP inflation, definitely big parts of it, but also like Dot will be getting shield, and if Dot no longer gets shield, in the short term, it's just gonna slowly go back to how it was, the way it is right now, or at the very least before Kafka was buffed. So, one final time, will Hysilens revive Dot? Just to paraphrase everything, she will, right? For the short term, she most definitely will. Right? Looking at her kit, she is such a great enabler for Kafka, Black Swan. Even if you don't have them, right, you could run like Sampo, Guinaifen. I don't think you could actually clear the endgame, right? The average player wouldn't be able to. But like, it's primarily for Kafka, Black Swan, right? That's kind of where you want to use Hysilens in. She will be great in the short term. But in the long term, I'm not too sure, right? You definitely want to be thinking about the long term when it comes to pulling characters in Honkai Star Rail. So many people have the mentality of pulling a unit just to bench them within the next like 6 or so months. That's not how you should be playing the game, right? I still use so many old units. I was using Firefly up until Phynon dropped, like a good year of consistently using Firefly to max start the end game. I've still been using Sparkle ever since version 2.0, right? I didn't bench Jingliu until the Herta came out, right? If you're gonna pull a unit, you definitely want some longevity to them. The more longevity, immediately the more value they have, right? Long-term value matters so much more than short-term value in my eyes. At least I'd hate to pull a unit just to not use them in a couple months time, so I try to avoid doing that. And honestly, I don't see Hysilens clears being done in the next 6 or 7 months, unless Hoyoverse continues, once again, if they just find a way to, make Dot more viable, right? Because there is power creep in the game to an extent. right? I'm not gonna say it's rampant, right? I'm not gonna spread that kind of lie because it's not rampant. You can still use old units just fine. It's just a big difference between old units and new units, right? We're getting allegedly 2 new DPSs before version 4.0 drops. It's 2 new DPSs in the next 6 months, right? Will post buff Kafka with Black Swan and Hysilens be better than honestly even a Phynon team comp? I don't know, right? You have to even consider that as well. If it's worth trying to revive Dot by going for Hysilens over someone like Serija for Phynon to preserve his longevity. There's so many factors you need to consider, and honestly, Hysilens will be such a huge asset. I think moving forward, she will be a necessity for any kind of Dot team, but I just don't see the value in the long term, right? But that's about it for this video. Maybe I'm just completely wrong, and maybe I will eat my words. She will be great, but I just don't know, right? I'm not gonna say she will be bad long term. I'm just saying, I'm simply saying that I don't know if she has that longevity planned in her kit. Think of the Herda, right? The Herda, you can get 40,000 score at E0, S0 in pure fiction every single time easily. That kind of longevity is so huge in a character, right? Even now, I auto battle pure fiction with the Herda, and I just have my eyes closed, right? One hand on my eyes, just not even thinking about it. But so that's really about it for this video. I'll see y'all. Goodbye.